Good evening from wherever you are watching us this Tuesday on Prime Edition. My name is Mboya.
My name is Museo. Thank you so much for joining us. It's August the 10th day of 2021, and exactly a date like today, 1 year on, Kenyans will be able to know their fifth president. That's right, and tonight live in studio we are hosting former Chief Justice Dr. WILLY MUTUNGA. He'll be taking us through Kenya's political as well as constitutional journey, the gains, the misses, and the question is, can the general election be postponed? Don't miss his answer. Well, but first things first, let's look at tonight's highlights. What's cooking? President Uhuru Kenyatta meets ODM leader and Oka Kenya Alliance principals 1 year to the elections.
Kila mwanaume na mama wakuje kwa wananchi wa Kenya na agenda, wawache vitisho na wakuje na track record. Wasituletee wimbo tu.
DP Ruto accuses his political adversaries of promoting politics of fear. And 5 people die after consuming illicit brew in Nakuru's Bahati area. Thank you so much for joining us and a warm welcome. And our sign language interpreter tonight, it's Anne Wangeshi. Feel free to tell us where you tuned in from, and of course the interactive segment tonight we have. Our hashtag is Prime Edition, and you can also talk to us on our Twitter handles at KBC Channel 1. Let's go straight to our top story of the day. Kenya and Somalia have struck a deal to reset their diplomatic relations. President Uhuru Kenyatta on Tuesday held talks with Somalia Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein, where the two countries agreed to collaborate more in areas such as security, trade, and investment. Here is that story.
Speaking during the meeting, President Kenyatta said prosperity of Kenya and Somalia is key. President Kenyatta said the two countries will open a new page by encouraging people-to-people and interactions.
And that we truly look forward to having meaningful discussions between ourselves, discussions aimed at ensuring the long-standing relationship between our two countries continues to strengthen.
President Kenyatta welcomed the restoration of Kenya-Somali diplomatic ties and called for an amicable resolution of the maritime border dispute. The president underscored the importance of stability in national and regional development, saying economic growth is only possible in a peaceful environment.
And for us, our second home is also Somalia, because at the end of the day, we are neighbors, and we need to be able to understand and to live with each other. So we're welcoming not just a friendly country, but we're welcoming a brother.
On his part, Prime Minister Roble regretted the recent deterioration of relations between Kenya and Somalia, saying it was an error for the two nations to forsake the vision of unity held by the founding fathers of the two nations. He acknowledged the historical relationship that exists between Kenya and Somalia, saying the friendship is based on good neighborliness, cooperation, stability, and mutual respect. Kenya and Somalia had been engaged in a bitter diplomatic tiff after Mogadishu accused Nairobi of meddling in its political affairs.
Meanwhile, President Uhuru Kenyatta held a consultative meeting with a cross-section of political party leaders to discuss several subjects touching on the state of the nation. During the Tuesday meeting with ODM leader Raila Odinga, ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya, and KANU party leader Gideon Moi, the leaders discussed the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the country and how to revamp the economy, as well as the importance of maintaining peace, unity, and national cohesion. Also present at the meeting at State House Mombasa was Kakamega Governor and ODM Deputy Party Leader Wycliffe Oparanya. Well, the Kilifi Governor Emerson Kingi has been removed from the position of the chairperson of the Orange Democratic Movement in Kilifi County and replaced by Ganzi Member of Parliament Teddy Mwambire.
Kingi, whose political persuasion has been the subject of serious scrutiny, has however welcomed the move.
Governor Emerson Kingi's stay in ODM has been thrown into serious doubt after his 9-year stint at the helm of the party in Kilifi County came to a screeching halt on Tuesday. The Kilifi governor, who has been slowly gravitating away from ODM, has welcomed his ouster. In a statement, Kingi said he is proud having steered the Orange Party to great success in Kilifi County. Over the last few months, Kingi has been championing the establishment of a political party which he says embodies the ideals of the Coast region.
Kile kitu tunataka kuleta ni chama cha kisiasa ama muungano wa kisiasa wenye asilia ya hapa pwani. A national party or a national coalition ambayo ina kitovu chake hapa pwani. Kwa hivyo ikiwa ni chama, ikiwa ni coalition, haitakuwa tu na wagombezi hapa pwani peke yake. Itakuwa na wagombezi hata Nyanza. Itakuwa na wagombezi hata Western. Itakuwa na wagombezi hata Central. Kwa hivyo hii si mambo ya kusema kwamba hii ni mwavuli ya pwani, itabaki pwani. La hasha. It's a national movement, lakini kitovu chake, chanzo chake, fikra zake zinatoka ama mizizi yake inaanzia katika sehemu hii ya pwani.
The governor has, however, been silent on his national political future. Two political parties with roots from the coast have been reportedly registered, namely Pamoja Alliance and Kenya Democratic for Change. The parties have been issued provisional certificates by the Registrar of Political Parties. PAA is reportedly linked to the Kilifi governor. Meanwhile, the Federal Party of Kenya has settled on gospel artist and presidential aspirant Reuben Kigame as its flag bearer in the 2022 general election. Speaking in Eldoret, Kagame said his candidature offers an alternative in the race with hope of being the 5th president of Kenya.
My desire to step out and be counted in 2022 as a possible alternative candidate for the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. I know it looks and may sound unbelievable because it's not every day you see a blind man stand to say he wants to be president. It is going to be history, even if it happened, and I believe it will.
Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Now, exactly 1 year from today, Kenyans will go to the polls to elect its leaders from the president to county representatives.
Now, there have been varied opinions on the August date. The Constitution, as it stands, is explicit that a general election must be held on the second Tuesday of August every 5 years, which will this time round fall on the 10th of August 2022.
But is the date cast in stone? John Jacob Curia dissects the situation.
The Constitution of Kenya, in both Articles 101 and 136 respectively, states that the election of members of parliament, county governor, MCAs and the president will be held on the second Tuesday in August every 5th year. Furthermore, Article 102 of the Constitution says the term of Parliament expires on the date of the next general election, but its time can be extended for a term of not more than 6 months at a time, but should not be extended for a total of more than 12 months. Does this then mean that the date of a general election is cast in stone?
If Parliament moves with a 2/3 majority, if the courts are convinced the reasons as to why the election can be pushed ahead, then that can be accommodated. But I don't think with the polarized type of politics that we have between the Tanga wing and the Kileke wing and the ODM wing, that is likely to succeed.
This country is governed by the rule of law, and there are certain provisions that provide for the extension of that date, but I don't think you can arbitrarily just wake up and say that we will extend it. But who knows? Those who sit in these offices and those who are mandated with decision making will make that decision at the appropriate time.
The election date of this country is in the Constitution. Starting from the time of the inauguration of the Constitution, 2 terms for the presidency, and comes back to 9th August 2022. That date is set in the Constitution in terms of numbers. You can change a 9 to be 10. It's 9th August of 2022.
With the COVID-19 situation and especially the Delta variant ravaging the country, proponents of a postponement of the election argue that the country is battling a dangerous and unpredictable pandemic that would warrant a postponement. In fact, the African Court on Human and People's Rights mid-last month appeared to give an okay to the postponement of an election owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, but giving a rider that political actors, health authorities and representatives of civil society be consulted to ensure an inclusive approach to the process, with consultation focusing on the measures necessary to ensure that elections are conducted in a transparent, free and fair manner.
There is no legal basis for postponing on that ground unless we domesticate that judgment into our laws, or maybe a party goes to our courts and it seeks domestication of that judgment.
When we still under the pandemic, we've had several by-elections. I don't have to mention them, Kiamba, Mogoga. Even yesterday we had a member of parliament who was sworn in after being elected during the pandemic. The constitution of this country is not political.
5 general elections worldwide have been conducted under COVID regulation. There was no vaccination when the American election was being conducted. Yet, Trump did the elections and he lost. Biden took over. Elections have been conducted all over, in Tanzania and in other countries. So I don't see any justification for a delay of election.
In an attempt to throw a spanner into the works, former nominated Senator Njoroge Ben Paul now wants the IEBC to declare the second Tuesday of August 2023 as the date of the next general election. Njoroge claims President Uhuru Kenyatta, having been sworn into office in November 2017, his 5-year term expires in November of 2022, and the only other available August, as stipulated in the Constitution, is in 2023.
If we wanted to follow those numbers, why didn't we say that the Constitution has been inaugurated on 24th August 2010, so the 2 terms begins on 24th 10-2010, Kibaki would have begun his first term on that day and continued for 2 terms.
The bodies that are in place, the judiciary, the executive and the parliament, they are empowered to come up with strategies and policies on how to ensure that things run smoothly as provided in the Constitution.
The president, then governors, hold office until new leaders are elected, so their terms will be substantially secured. Therefore, Mr. Njoroge's argument, in my view, does not merit.
The judiciary might not agree with this senator who has gone to court, but he has valid reasons if we go according to the calendar days since the president was sworn in. But that is a legal lacuna that is likely to cause another big problem, more problematic than the BBI.
All right. But preparation of the election seems to have set sail, with IEBC presenting a roadmap to drive the process to its material day. Told of any lacuna, President Uhuru Kenyatta has nominated 4 individuals to fill the vacant commissioner positions in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, making the commission duly constituted.
There are different schools of thoughts, but all these have to be done within the 4 corners of the existing constitution.
The next general election is 1 year away. The ideas of postponing the election will most likely end up in courts of competent jurisdiction and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. For Kenyans, it's a matter of wait and see, hopeful that the election will happen on the second Tuesday of August, the year 2022. John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
Well, Deputy President William Ruto has asked leaders to compete on the platform of issues, programs, and development track record.
He said it's time leaders desist from engaging in politics of threats and embrace agenda-based issues of development.
Speaking at his current home, Ruto said instilling fear in leaders will not improve the lives of ordinary Kenyans. The Deputy President has instead challenged leaders to come up with programs which will empower Kenyans. He urged leaders to go beyond temporary waves of political slogans and institute long-term approaches that will change Kenya for the better.
Kila mwanaume na mama wakuje kwa wananchi wa Kenya na agenda, wawache vitisho na wakuje na track record. Wasituletee wimbo tu ati tibim tialala nasa huyu. Hapana, come with your track record, my friend. Ama namna gani?
Kwa hivyo hawa ni viongozi maasla, hawelewi mambo ya chama. Mimi nilienda na chama ya Jubilee na nikachaguliwa. So mambo ya vitisho ya chama kuhusu uoga ya kwamba Kitui hautapata kiti ukiongea mambo ya Ruto, jamani tafuteni kitu kingine ya kuuzia sisi viongozi wa Kitui ambao tuko Hustler Nation.
The people of Kenya will have to choose between making peace with the mediocrity of tribal alliances that benefit leaders through position sharing and power sharing, and the economic revolution that we are driving as the Hustler Nation.
On that note, we take our first commercial break right here on Prime Edition.
And remember, later on, we will be engaging with Dr. WILLY MUTUNGA, Chief Justice Emeritus. We'll be looking at Kenya's political and constitutional journey, the misses and the gains. So
stay with us.
We're going to take a break at this point. Stay with us.
Ukiangalia katika majeshi yetu tunaona namna gani? Tunaona kwamba vyeo ambavyo vilikuwa vinadhaniwa ni vya wabeberu peke yao sasa vimenyakuliwa ni wananchi wetu, ndio wanavikalia. Ukiwaona na manyota huko juu utatetemeka. Wapi Mulinge wapi? Haya, mtaona mambo. Hebu simama hapa wakuone, uwapigie suruti moja. Simama sawa hapa, angalia wananchi wakuone. Mwangalieni, huyo ndiye kubwa kabisa. Angalia manyota tele juu na huko makofia mekuna huko angalieni. Hii ilikuwa inasemekana ati ni kitu ya wabeberu. Mkubwa yake Bwana Ndolo naye akisimama hapa sasa mtatetemeka kuona vile mambo yalivyo. Hebu wapigie suruti moja ya wananchi. Thank you very much. Thank you. Asante sana.
Kumwalia madonge mpaka unchafuka kiasi hichi.
Si ni huyo maana mpenzi wake huko. Hapa bwana, jisikie uko nyumbani. Nakaribishwa Zari anytime.
Asante.
Karibu sana.
Kwa hivyo kila siku mimi na wakili tutakuwa tuonana
Come on Kate. Hilo si lilikuwa ni swali, sasa mjadala ni wa nini?
It's either about me or nobody at all.
I'm sorry. I'm not following this. Where did you last have it?
Maswala yako peleka polisi huko. Sawa, ninachotaka hapa mimi ni mkufu wangu. Period.
Welcome back. Kenya's COVID-19 positivity rate has climbed to 14.5% after 1,183 people tested positive over the last 24 hours. From the cases, 1,123 are Kenyans, while 60% are foreigners.
Nairobi County reported the highest number of new infections with 442 cases. 32 patients succumbed to the disease, one of them having occurred in the last 24 hours, while 31 are late deaths reported after conducting facility record audits on diverse dates in April, May, June, July and August 2021.
1,318 patients have recovered from the disease. 1,827 are still admitted in various health facilities countrywide. Currently, 135 patients are in the intensive care unit. Now, globally, over 203 million infections have been reported, over 4 million deaths. Now, the government is asking passengers to speak up against matatu operators who are overloading their vehicles.
The government spokesperson Colonel Cyrus Oguna says that COVID-19 is still a danger, hence the need for PSV operators to obey all safety protocols in the transport sector.
The Ministry of Health has, in the meantime, embarked on mass COVID vaccination exercise targeting workers at the export processing zone.
A day after the government allowed public service vehicles to resume full passenger capacity carriage, the government is cautioning the operators against carrying excess passengers. In a tweet, government spokesperson Cyrus Oguna called on passengers to speak up against those overloading their vehicles. Oguna said complacency in the transport sector may negate efforts made in combating the disease. Meanwhile, vaccination of the first batch of workers at the Export Processing Zone Authority kicked off Tuesday. The EPZA board says the move is aimed at protecting the over 16,000 workers, majority of whom live in Kitengela and Athi River towns.
In EPZA, we have a lot of our staff who are engaging with a lot of people from our investors, and it's important that we get them secured. And then since we, as the government has availed to us vaccines, we are not limiting it only to our people. Because we have a large number of workforce, the investors are also technically our people.
Wale staff wetu na wale staff wafanyikazi wale wengine wanafanya kazi na wa investors wale wengine, ndio tuweze kuhakikisha kuwa tumefuatia zile sheria za serikali zile wameweka kuambatana na kuzuia kueneza hii ugonjwa wa COVID.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
Kupata skiza tune ya karao na DJ, bonyeza star 811 star 967 hash.
Raya, hii ni kwa matiche wote. Please, do not confuse the government. Usianza kufinya ile kitu inasema more fire. Ama ile ya the roof is on fire. Ama unaanza kusema we are killing this party. Ama the party is just a bomb. We are having a blast. No. Wewe cheza musiki and just be Fitland. Enjoy. Ama namna kani. Sawa. Over and out.
Bonyeza star 811 star 967 hash. Star 811 star 967 hash.
What does this number mean to you? A pack leader? A winner? Or just a number? To us, it means freshness, boldness, vibrancy and heritage. That's why at KBC Channel 1, we make it easier for you to pop up your family entertainment to a fresh, exciting and colorful bouquet.
We now focus on matters of business. My name is Carol Jenga. Now, communication, social media, mobile money, entertainment and content creation were the top 5 users of mobile handsets after COVID-19 struck. This is according to the latest 2021 Kenya's Digital Economy Report that indicates that mobile money use increased after restrictions were enforced to contain the spread of COVID-19. As Alan Oko reports, the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated adoption of digital services.
The COVID-19 pandemic created immense business opportunities for those in the digital space. If findings from the latest 2021 Kenya's Digital Economy Report is anything to go by, the report says that travel restrictions imposed in the country forced people to explore what they could do with their gadgets. Use of mobile money increased perhaps due to a waiver on sending up to 1,000 shillings for the better part of 2020, as well as the travel restrictions.
Mobile money growth has catalyzed innovation as well as development and usage of other services and applications. However, it is our prerogative to entrench ourselves as champions to inclusive transformation.
The movement has been a bit accidental, caused by a global pandemic. So, things moved a lot faster. They were moving at a certain pace, and around about March, April last year, we had a shift in our lives that have caused us all to do more online.
The study found that 25% of Kenyans are basic digital services users who use USSD codes or SMS for basic mobile money services. It further indicates that fraud and digital safety as well as Huduma centers are helping deepen Kenya's digital penetration.
You can't just bring an innovation unless there's a foundation, and then Kenya embraces this digital foundation, whether that's an infrastructure, digital, basic skills, connect the devices. Hence, there's that foundation, and then innovations are coming in.
The other top digital services uses that increased during the lockdown period included for communication, social media, entertainment, creation of content, and for seeking information.
The level of access that is happening within the country, and there's a lot of work to be done to make sure that there is equal access of ICT services across the entire country. So the opportunities are there and the work is there, and it's really well cut out for us according to this report.
When you think about the digital economy, of course, you'll probably be thinking about the corporate entities in big cities like Nairobi, Kisumu and Mombasa, but there's a rising opportunity in the rural areas where people there are yearning for that technological gap touch that will enable them to enhance their financial inclusion. Alan Oko, Prime Edition.
Thank you, Alan, for that report. Now, horticulture and coffee earnings lifted Kenya's total export revenue to a decade high in the first half of this year. Data from the Central Bank of Kenya shows the country's export in the first 6 months of this year increased by 16.3% to 368 billion shillings. But despite the record earnings from exports, Kenya's imports rose faster in the period to 992 billion shillings.
Earnings from horticulture, vegetables, cut flowers and fruits rose 30.8% to 73.1 billion shillings, while coffee was up 22% to 16.1 billion shillings in the 6 months to June 2021. In the period, Kenya exported goods valued at 369 billion shillings, which is a 10-year high despite challenges brought about by COVID-19 pandemic. The earnings represent a 16.3% increase from 317.1 billion shillings over a similar period in the year 2020. Most of Kenyan exports were to Uganda, Tanzania, United Kingdom, Netherlands and Rwanda. Uganda was the biggest market for Kenyan exports. Kenya exported 24.2 tons of coffee worth 16.1 billion shillings during the period, according to data from the Central Bank of Kenya. In the period under review, Kenya exported 335 tons of horticulture valued at 68 billion shillings, up from 51 billion shillings in the year 2020. Tea earnings remained flat at 63 billion shillings after production dropped 298.5 thousand tons in the first half of the year 2020. However, despite the record half-year earnings, the gap between imports and exports expanded due to increased imports of crude oil, machinery and materials for factories. Kenya bought goods worth 992 billion shillings, a gap of 623 billion shillings from 460 billion shillings in the same period last year.
Well, and that is how we wrap up business news for tonight. But for these stories and more, you can log in onto our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke. My name is Carol Jenga. Up next is Sports with Karen Kibet.
Get the VIP access to the best shows on KBC Channel 1. We have something different, something special to spice you up. Get ready for new, exciting and captivating dramas. Movies. I love the smell. Comedy.
I went to the popos. Huh?
Drama.
Will he assault the queen in my house, in my presence?
News, sports, and so much more. Do the things that make you happy on KBC Channel 1.
Trouble comes in different shapes and forms. But what's important is getting out there and off the beaten path. Learning about different cultures. Getting that adrenaline pumping whilst taking in nature's beauty.
Muchas gracias. Bene, bene. Beautiful.
This season, we're proud to show you our home, that being Kenya. All this and so much more, only on Zurura. Find your adventure.
Welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at what's making headlines in the world of sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, Kenya's representatives in the shot put at the forthcoming World Under-20 Athletics Championship are hopeful of clinching medals at the championship set for August 17th and 22nd at Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi.
The duo Dominic Kiprotich and Maureen Akisa will fly Kenya's flag in the boys and girls categories respectively. Maureen will be the sole girls representative and is eyeing a podium place at the championship. The 19-year-old who once turned out for Football Kenya Federation Women's Premier League side Ulinzi Starlets is relishing her chances at the world meet.
Najua si rahisi, so lakini kuna ile kani tu na motisha tu kuwa naweza. Najua tuko nyumbani. So lazima ukiambia naweza.
Her counterpart in the field event, Dominic Kiprotich, who picked up shot put 6 years ago, says he has a target of winning at home with his current training, focusing on boosting his technical edge.
So naona iko na improvement, iko na nguvu sana, nitawakilisha Kenya nilete medali.
Kenya will also feature in javelin as its second field event at the World Under-20 through Martha Musai and Wilson Letunyei. Musai, who clinched gold during the 2019 Africa Under-20 Athletics Championship, is confident of finishing among the medalists at the Nairobi meet.
Tumetoka watu dunia yote. So nafaa nijikakamwe, niweke 50-60 juu wanahema hapo.
Meanwhile, Poland is the first team to arrive for the 6-day event. Poland's javelin thrower Eric Kolazijak led his other two teammates in light training session at Moi Kasarani Stadium.
This competition is very important for me and for my family, for my national team from Poland, for Poland.
And we not only wish the shot
put team all the best. We definitely wish Team Kenya to the World Under-20 Athletics Championship all the best. Now moving on, the Kenya Beach Volleyball Commission has embarked on a nationwide campaign of training high school students as part of growing the game. The campaign is also aimed to educate and create awareness to the children about social values.
Kenya Beach Volleyball Commission Chairman Moses Mboya launched the campaign at Graceland Secondary School, after which they will take the initiative to Bindo Bay in October. According to Mboya, who is also Kenya Volleyball Nairobi Chairman, the commission will also conduct training clinics in addition to launching volleyball circuit in all the 47 counties.
The Volleyball Federation and on my own behalf, together with the Beach Volleyball Commission, we want to to appreciate the director of Graceland for being among the first people to start the beach volleyball in their school. And we are telling you, madam, the choice that you've taken, you will not regret. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. The purpose of launching the campaign is to popularize the sport, especially after the beach volleyball team emerged victorious in Morocco, and despite being kicked out in the Olympics, they gave a good account of themselves. In the qualifier matches, Kenya team of Braxidis Agala and Gaudesia Makoha beat Nigerian pair Amaki Uchekunku and Francisca Ikihede 2-1, while Captain Oscar Hasisi and Yvonne Wavinya easily silenced the duo of Albertia Francis and Tochuku Noruga 2-0. Daniel Mwendwa, Sports.
And finally, 6-time Ballon d'Or champion Lionel Messi has agreed to join PSG on a 2-year contract. The deal, which has the option of a 3rd year, is subject to a medical confirmation. The 34-year-old Argentina captain left Barcelona, the only club he has ever played for, as they were unable to afford a new deal under the La Liga's financial fair play rules.
Messi, who will receive a £25 million sign-on fee as part of the move, was set to extend his 21-year stay at Barcelona by signing a new 5-year deal last week. However, the club announced on Thursday last week that financial and structural obstacles meant the deal could not be completed, meaning Messi left as a free agent. Messi is now set to join PSG, with their potential to compete for major trophies, including the Champions League, understood to be a key factor in his decision to move to France. Messi is also believed to be keen to reunite with Neymar, with whom he won 2 La Liga titles, 3 Copa del Reys, and the Champions League during their time together at Barcelona. He will become PSG's 4th free transfer signing this summer after the arrivals of Netherlands midfielder Jorginho Wijnaldum, Spain defender Sergio Ramos, and Italian goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma. Highly rated Morocco right-back Ashraf Hakimi also joined from Inter Milan.
And that's all we had for you right here at the KBC Primetime Sports News. Let's do this all over again tomorrow, same time, same place. From me, Karen Kibet, it's a lovely night. But the bulletin is not yet over, as I do hand you back to Tom and Purity.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Kibet.
And tonight, I will be wrapping it up alone.
Yeah,
because Tom is coming up next with a much anticipated interview with a former CJ, Dr. WILLY MUTUNGA. It's a good night from me, but of course, Tom is coming up next. And Wangeshi has been our sign language interpreter. Do stay safe.
Well, welcome back. As we had promised to you, I now wish to usher in Dr. WILLY MUTUNGA, Chief Justice Emeritus. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Before we even get into Kenya's constitutional and political journey and the legalese around it, I want you to start us off with the insights of your early life. How was it like growing up in Kitui in those days, during the pre-independence Kenya?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because growing up as a kid, there were 4 forces that I remember. There is the community, there is religion, there is colonialism, and also resistance, because it's during the time I'm in primary school that the Mau Mau War is ongoing. So you grow up in my village was during that time was a great village. There were 5 rich people. They took care of the village, so that nobody slept hungry. The grazing was communal. The watering places were, communal. And as kids, you could get into any sugar plantation and cut a cane to eat, or uproot a cassava and eat it, mangoes. So there was a kind of socialism, in that community, where you felt you are a child of everybody. Okay? And you are
the village.
Yes, and you are disciplined by everybody if you disobeyed. So I remember that a community, where kids were treated nicely and fed, and it was a community within colonialism that was at peace with itself. Yeah. And then you then go into the issue of religion, whereas a child, the confusion starts. You see your parents who are traditional, who are following, the Kamba traditional religion, pour the libations at night. And then there is a church that is built, in the village, and there are few converts. And religion is also tied to the primary schools that we go to, because it was a given. Once you go to school, the teachers want you to be a Christian, and so forth. But colonialism, we knew as children that the British, were in power. We didn't get to see a lot of white people in Kitui town because of the segregation.
Okay.
The town was segregated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I took some time to look at a book that has been authored by Elizabeth Mazrui.
Yes.
She talks about your life's journey, and she depicts you as somebody who sort of got a sense of fairness and justice early in your life. So share with us some specific events that you believe today, when you look back in retrospect, influenced your worldview today.
Yeah, I think basically the community is key. That is the crucible, of my, sense of justice. The fact that colonial education was very, very brutal, and colonialism itself, was felt even in the village, because you had chiefs, you had the askaris in the villages, and they were also very, very brutal. The teachers themselves were also very brutal. So as a child, you grow hating the oppressors and the people who are not treating you well, and you glorify the people who treat you well. I think for a child that's a very easy choice to make.
And those people would include your grandmother,
yes,
who at some point singled you out of a sibling, your other 8 siblings, and said that you will one day be a great person. So I want to ask you, why you, and from your grandmother?
Well, she said that this was a prophecy. She told me that there was a famine in Kitui, And my grandmother had 9 children, and she lost 6 of them. So it's only my mother and my aunt and my uncle who survived. Anyway, she was 2 of her kids had died, and my mother was crying, and she just got fed up. There was no food, so she threw my mother into, you know, a bush, and somebody passed there and said, you shouldn't do that, because that you know, that child will be the mother of a governor. That's what they said.
That's what they said.
Yeah, and I told my mother, my grandmother, it's not going to happen. Governors were white. Okay, I didn't look into the issue of the office, and I didn't think much of it
about it at that point
until I became president of the Law Society of Kenya. I said, hey.
And you looked back.
I looked back. Is this about this prophecy?
Wow.
Then I became president of the
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
Wow.
And I started thinking, maybe this thing about governor is something bigger. And wow. I said, oh my God, I wish I was 35. That's what I'll go for.
Wow. When I got a chance to look at your O-level exam records, and that was the old education system.
Yeah.
You were obviously, without any shadow of doubt, a bright spark by Kenyan standards. And I mean, you delivered straight A's in all your subjects. And congratulations. So, what was your drive in education? What lied behind, you know?
I think, you know, I'm in school, you know, just when the Lancaster conferences are happening. I'm in primary school. I'm in standard 8 when Kenyatta is released in 61. Okay, I go to Kitui Secondary School in 62. That's the period of decolonization, and education becomes, you know, a very, very, very important discussion among the community, among the students themselves, among everybody, because everybody is saying the British are leaving, you know, there will be jobs. If you do well, you know, you obviously become somebody.
You become somebody, yeah.
So that was the basis of it.
Okay.
And there are teachers who never tire
yeah.
of actually telling us this and putting extra time. Yeah.
Okay. If in the African context, there were, you know, social and cultural factors behind marriages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you, a baptized Protestant, you rejected your parents' push to have you marry when you are young. But later, and this is what becomes interesting for me, you turned away from the church because of the hostility towards the traditional animistic practices. So what do you tell those people who see this as two opposed philosophies?
I normally refer people to the Constitution itself, which article that's true, I think it is, where your belief and your opinion is your right. Okay? That's why in this country you can be a devil worshipper, you can be an atheist, you can belong to, you know, all religions that you want. That's basically the constitutional value that we have. And I think it's basically based, in my view, on Desmond Tutu's philosophy and theology, which is captured in a little book called God is Not a Christian, where he argues that God is a creator and he creates all of us. So even if atheists say that they don't believe in God, but they are created by God, that's how he argues. Even if people say we fed up with gay people are also God's, you know, creations. And he goes on to basically say that no religion owns God. No particular religion owns God.
It's the other way around.
Yeah, and for me, when I keep on saying that I'm a man of all faiths, it's because I That's the philosophy. I've been to temples. I've been I'm a practicing Muslim. I have no problem going to the Roman Catholic Church or the Protestant and so forth.
Okay. Yeah. Very well. Very well. Let's now move into your tenure as a Chief Justice. And I'm looking at the 2010 Constitution, which was broadly billed as very, very progressive.
Yeah, it is.
What would you highlight as some of the gains that you made during your tenure as Chief Justice?
That's a tough call, because as you always say, the jury is out there basically to say what exactly we did. But I need to say that what was done in the judiciary was the collective effort of a lot of people, a lot of experts in various areas. We also got money from Kibaki, moved our budget from 3 billion to 17 billion. So we were able to do a lot of stuff. Technology became the enabler for the administration of justice. Courts were built, salaries were improved. And in terms of developing the jurisprudence, we were faithful to the
overall objective.
To the overall objective.
I know it's difficult sometimes to speak about achievements, but it cannot be that difficult to highlight, because everywhere where there are milestones, it's balanced off by a deficit. What are the areas where you felt you fell short of what you had set very clearly as your goals?
Well, we had what we called the Judiciary Transformation Framework, 2012 to 2016. And we were very, very, very clear. We wanted, to develop jurisprudence. We wanted to build courts. We wanted technology, improved. And we also, there was a pillar about leadership, and professionalism, which we took to the Judicial Training Institute, so that, even judges, clerks, everybody could be trained in what they did. And one of the things I liked before I left the Supreme Court is to see my colleagues who are clerks turning up to be sworn in as, or to be admitted to the role of advocates, because of the trainings and people being allowed to self-educate themselves.
So if you look back, is there anything you'd point out and say, if I had time, I would have sort of, brought this to closure?
No, in public service, you don't close anything.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
You basically leave it to the next person.
Okay, fair enough.
And what CJ Maraga did was to came in with his philosophy, which was very positive, of sustaining judicial transformation, which meant that you build on what we had achieved, rescue the weaknesses, and then move into other directions.
Okay, fair enough. And now that you've talked about CJ Maraga, we remember the historic Raila presidential petition, which you threw out. It was seen
we
by
it
many.
Out, we dismissed.
We dismissed it. It was seen by many, by the way, as the greatest test of your career. You mentioned Maraga, and I want you to describe what you think about his ruling. He annulled the 2017 election. What was going through your mind when you saw that decision?
Oh, when I saw it, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, I wish the scrutiny that the Supreme Court in 2013 asked for was completed, but it wasn't. We asked for scrutiny suo motu, which is on our own motion, in 2013, although a lot of people don't talk about it, where we wanted the 33,400 polling stations, scrutinized, so that all of them, so that we could get a good picture of whether there were malpractices and so forth. But it wasn't finished, and we couldn't use that evidence. But the other thing, I realized was that because of the Judicial Training Institute and what was called the Judiciary Elections Committee that Judge Maraga chaired and others, the electoral jurisprudence had become very clear by 2017, and they could rescue whatever mistakes we made. That's how you develop the law, that you clarify the ambiguities.
Yeah.
But above all, the courage to decide
this or that way.
Yes.
Irrespective of...
There's a courage, and in the case of Kenya, that courage should not be underestimated because whatever you decide, you will be attacked, you will be vilified and glorified in equal measure. So it takes a lot of courage, and this time the judges differed, which was okay, 4-2, which is what is also important. But yeah, I said yes, the judiciary is, particularly the Supreme Court, is sending a message to the barons and the factions that it can decide against either faction, because in my view they decided against Jubilee, and in the rerun they actually indirectly decided against NASA.
Against NASA.
Yeah, although NASA didn't participate, but it was a great message for any Supreme Court to basically tell the factions among the politicians that you don't intimidate us. We can nullify an election. And
that you're fiercely independent.
Yes. It's always a good good message. But the problem with election petitions is that they will destroy courts, because you have a country that is divided.
How do you mean?
I mean that, take for example the 2013 petition that we decided.
Yeah.
Among Kenyans, they think that I'm the one who decided it, not the 6 of us. And as it turned out, the Kamba community was in CORD, and so the CORD faction have never forgiven me for it. But the other side, when I saw in President Uhuru Kenyatta on 9th of April 2013,
you were celebrated.
I was given an ovation. It's deafening, ovation. And I asked myself, if I was in Nyanza or Machakos or Gitria, I would probably have been stoned. That's division, Tom.
That's division right there.
Makes it very difficult even for whatever you call Solomonic wisdom.
Yeah.
Even whatever you decide, there are millions who are going to curse you.
Yeah, that's true.
And millions who are going to celebrate you.
Who are going to celebrate you.
Yeah.
So, beyond even the news sound bites, the headlines that, one side won, the other lost, do you think that the public could be missing out on understanding what the difficult questions are if they don't read the Supreme Court rulings, just to appreciate and engage with arguments from both sides?
Yeah, it's very difficult for ordinary people, to do it. But it was great that these presidential petitions are televised. It's also taught us a lesson, particularly when we gave the decision in 2013 that we could have followed the South African method, where you have a dialogue with the people, because you tell them why you are deciding in a particular way. Okay, but we debated it, and I think a lot of my colleagues thought that there might be a difference between that discussion and the reasons that we give 3 weeks later. But I think it's a good practice when you are televised to basically have that dialogue with the people and say in simple terms. In fact, we used to do what are called media briefs because a lot of journalists are not lawyers. So you simplify that for them, and so we can, that discussion can take place, and it's better so that people, at least those who want to listen, they will listen. But in this country, because of politics of division, do you think the losing candidate and the followers will listen? 2017 gives you an idea of how the politicians dealt with the judiciary, the abuses and the threats
that were going around.
Yeah, so until this country changes and becomes a nation, in the vision of the Constitution, where we value our diversity, and we start now looking at politics of issues and not politics of division.
BBI is live. And regardless of which direction it goes, what do you see as the significance of that case going forward?
Well, it's with the Court of Appeal. I'm a former CJ. I don't want to second guess what I might say. My views on BBI might be misread. Okay, and I will be putting my colleagues in the Court of Appeal in a very, very embarrassing situation if a former CJ will sit and say this decision was great or this decision wasn't great and so forth. So we just have to wait and see and wait again, because whatever the decision, I'm sure it will end up in the Supreme Court.
In the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just take you back. You behind the scenes, you sort of worked together with opposition leaders, Mwai Kibaki, Charity Kalukingilu, there was Michael Mamalwa, to form the National Alliance for Change that won the 2002 elections. How easy was it, because you were doing the back-end logistics, to cobble together this coalition? Because remember, we are also on coalition making mode now.
It's very difficult, because you are dealing with people who are not sincere. Okay, let me give you the example of that coalition, Kibaki, Wamalwa, and Ngilu. Yeah, they all knew that Kibaki will be their flag bearer, but that issue was not discussed. I was not even allowed to discuss it. So they spend a lot of time drinking tea and doing nothing. And when Kibaki was asked, he said, drinking tea is politics. and he was right. It's politics.
It's politics.
But that one, that's where I noticed Kibaki's genius, because he knew if he was prematurely given the flag bearer's position, he would obviously face a lot of attacks. So it stayed open. And we did a lot of papers for them as government in waiting. But you remember the moment Kasarani happened, and Raila had to bring the Kano orphans, to Kibaki Tosha. That's when Kibaki became the flag bearer. As they came from Kasarani, there was no other alternative but to basically endorse him. So that's great politics that I learned there, because Kibaki attended all meetings, but that issue was never raised.
It never came up.
No. And
it never came up.
And he didn't allow it. But I also learned a lot about politicians and their body language. Like Kibaki never talked much.
As people.
During those meetings. He never talked much, but if you looked at his body language, you could see whether he was very angry with that particular question and so forth.
Okay.
And it's very, very, very difficult, because the politics of division don't attract consensus.
They repel.
They repel consensus.
They repel. So what makes coalitions experience turbulence? Midway, as was the case with NAC, and today we are seeing Jubilee right in the middle.
It's again a contestation for political power, and also consensus or pacts that have been torn up.
Yeah.
Which
becomes difficult to reconcile.
Which is the case in both cases. If you look at Jubilee, I guess Deputy President Dr. Ruto expected to be endorsed, and supported by Uhuru.
Yeah.
You remember the Kibaki and the Raila, the same issue.
Yeah.
And this is because one thing that Kenyans don't realize is that the people we elect are not the ones who rule. There are forces behind them.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when you hear about cartels, when you hear about international community, which is the euphemism for foreign interests, there are these forces that enslave, elected, officials. And sometimes in some countries like Uganda, it could be the military that can tell you can't leave. I'm sure that's what happens to Museveni. He's basically told, no, you stay, because of these other interests. Okay. So it's easy when you asked about building alliances and trust. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult because they go back after you have agreed on something, and then they
renege.
They renege, and then the whole thing becomes conflictual. And in the Kenyan situation, what surprises me is that the elite hasn't become conscious of their interests, so that they could, share this power without all these, pull
and push.
Yeah, and threats, so that whenever we have elections like now, everybody is afraid.
Everybody is afraid. And in fact, you're talking about the election. Is the August 10th, 2022 election date cast on stone?
No, I don't think it is. You have to look at Article 58. There could be issues of declaration of emergency and so forth, which, if you look at that article, you will see with Article 132, I think you'll see what the scenarios are. Parliament is involved, the Supreme Court is involved in these issues of emergency that can come out of war, serious pandemics and other issues.
So it can shift.
It can shift
on the dynamics.
Yes, but in this country, in terms of politics, shifting can spark off a lot of instability.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You left early before your term ended. Huh? If the clock were to be turned back, what would you do differently?
Nothing. Nothing really. Because when you are in what I call collective leadership, and in the judiciary there was that, and there still is. People forget that in the judiciary you have associations like the Kenyan Judges and Magistrates Association, you have Kenya Women Judges Association, you have the Kenya Staff Association, there's something called the JELAC, which is the Judiciary Leadership Advisory Council, there's the JTI, where we all get trained. There's a lot of value in making the institution unified and speaking with one voice.
Okay.
And that kind of leadership is good because you don't feel like you are being pushed to take an individual decision, because you consult, and the decision that comes out is an institutional decision.
And the heavy stakeholder engagement.
Yes.
Okay, so as we come to the end of this show, you've passed the 7th floor. You're now 75 years?
Yeah, I'm living on borrowed time. If we trust what the Bible says.
Yeah.
Yes.
And some doctor told me that the threshold dropped to 50. So if you've done 75, then that's pretty good. I've
done 74.
You've done 74.
Yeah.
And you've been there and you've done it all. You've seen it all. What would you wish to see Kenya become in your sunset years?
That's a brilliant question, because I thought you were going to ask me what would you like, what would you wish Kenya remembered you for? Well, wherever I will be, I've given you that history, of Kenya, which still continues. The history of resistance, because Kenyans don't like dictatorships, and when you trace it, you realize that there was always, whether it's against the colonialists, there was also resistance to their domination and so forth, and I think it continues, which is a good thing. But in my life, I've always wished for a Kenya that is free, a Kenya that is just, equitable, egalitarian, ecologically safe, is gender just, is non-ethnic, is non-racial, and is prosperous. Okay, that has always been my vision of Kenya, and basically also a Kenya that values its diversity. Okay, and we it's not a Kenya based on divisions and so forth, which causes strife and so forth, and that's basically what my vision is.
Do you see it happening in your lifetime?
No.
Why no?
It's, well, I don't know my lifetime, so I don't know when it is that I'm going to leave this.
But are we likely to turn the bend soon?
The history of Kenya shows that. When you look at the history of resistance, it's always, whether it's the second liberation, whether it's the Mau Mau itself, whether it's Mekitilili, whether it's Wayaki, whether it's Koitalel, all those people, which historians don't want to capture and which the media doesn't also, glorify. Is when you have oppression, you have resistance. And in the struggle between oppression and resistance, that's when there's progress. Okay. Because those who are in power sometimes make concessions, like the 2010 Constitution has a lot of those concessions. But the implementation now is the one that has become a problem. Okay, has become another struggle. I personally have made it very clear publicly that the crisis of this nation is a crisis of political leadership.
Okay.
And if you get an alternative political leadership that completely leads in the opposite direction of what our barons are doing, it will be different.
It will be different.
Yeah, but because these alliances, don't forget, alliances that we keep on mentioning are about 5 communities. The big 5, not the animals, but the communities.
The communities.
And you know them, right? Yeah. So the alliances, whether it's One Kenya, whether it's Tanga, whether it's Jubilee, whether it's BBI, all those ones, when you look at it, it's the 5 communities that control over 70% of the vote. So even in 2002, Kibaki's victory was not an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, because of those particular alliances. And what we need to do is look at the Constitution, Article 91, which says you cannot organize politics on the basis of division.
Yeah.
And we also remember there are other communities, not just the 5.
Yeah.
Okay? Some that are marginalized. And so it's the age of neopolitics. And for me, I think that is going to come from the generations that are coming.
The ones that is at the base of the pyramid.
That's right. Because
who happen to be the majority.
Yeah, because I work with the youth, and what I've seen is that the politics of issues is here with us, because they are talking about education, they are talking about jobs, they are talking about health, they are talking about sanitation, everything. So they are, there are issues that they are talking about.
Okay.
And the politicians will have to address that, going forward. I don't think that buying votes and dividing people
will cure our problems.
Will cure our problems.
And I think that's a good place to leave it. I just want to thank you for finding time to come and speak to us. Thank you so much. You amassed all through this interview, and I know our viewers have watched that. That's an important protocol. We must mask up. We must keep our social distance.
Okay.
But thank you nevertheless. And we wish you well in your sunset years. Thank you, Dr. for coming. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Willy Mutunga, for finding time to come through. We really appreciate. We wish you well in your sunset years, and thank you for giving us and sharing with us those insights. Well, that's all we had time for from the capital city of Nairobi, Kenya. My name is Mboya, and I'm wishing you a pleasant evening. Good night, and God bless.
Vera Beauty College.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika and Meru. Did you know that we are a TVET approved institution? We offer courses in fashion design, interior design in soft furnishing, event decoration, flower arrangement, event planning,